Ladies and gents, boys and girls, what is going on? I told you this was a possibility because Alabama moving swiftly, moving diligently. Kalen Deboer is the man in Tuscaloosa. Guys, appreciate you all tuning in. We are taking your questions, your comments, your calls, reacting to the news that Kalen Deboer is the 28th head coach in the University of Alabama's rich tradition, rich history, if you will. 843-790-3377. I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts? How are you feeling? The Kalen Deboer hire for Alabama football. Chris Lowe of ESPN just a few minutes ago saying this: Kalen Deboer has agreed to a deal to replace Nick Saban as Alabama's head coach. Sources tell ESPN. Deboer led Washington to a Pac-12 title in the college football playoff title game in his second season at UW. He's won 11 or more games in 7 of his 9 seasons as a head coach. So, guys, it is all but official. We've got everything but Alabama themselves officially saying it, or Kalen Deboer himself, although, again, it's being reported. There is a team meeting that's coming up, I think, in an hour or so, where he will inform his team of what is going on. Guys, let's go ahead and jump to the phone lines.
Call from
Harrison.
Harrison, what's going on, man? You're on the air.
How's it going, Chris? What's going
up?
on?
What's going
How are you
on, man?
feeling about this?
I feel pretty good. I think you can do a lot worse. I mean, you look at the resume for Kalen Deboer. He's won everywhere he's been. And, you know, I love this because of the underdog story kind of feel for it, right? It's a guy that maybe he wasn't number one on people's lists, but, I mean, you just can't deny the guy is a winner. The guy is a winner in every sense of the word. He's, again, won everywhere he's been. The only knock that I see that people are really having is that he's not a Southern guy, which I don't think is all that big of a deal, as long as he surrounds himself with the best possible staff, best possible assistants, if you will. So, I mean, listen, here's the thing, too, and we'll talk about this a lot more. I don't know that there was one guy that there wasn't some sort of a roll of the dice. There wasn't some level of risk to it. And, again, he's won big everywhere he's been. And so I think you're in good hands with a Kalen Deboer who's going to have more resources and more assets at his disposal than he's ever had.
Oh, absolutely. And I think with the SEC, the Southern kind of roots that people are talking about, you got to think he's from South Dakota. Who else in the SEC is from South Dakota? Josh Heupel, Tennessee. I mean, how has that kind of affected anything? Does it?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, man, for sure. I mean, it's with the ever-changing SEC, especially. Like, I just, you know, I just don't think the Southern. I don't think the Southern ties and Southern roots thing is that big of a deal, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure. And the next question is, what does Will Rogers do? I mean, he transferred to Washington to play with Kalen Deboer and in that Washington offense. I mean, you got Jalen Milroe still in Alabama. Like, what is happening in that quarterback room? What's going on?
Yeah, I think that is a really, really interesting talking point, Harrison, just because the offensive style and system they're going to bring over it is – I don't know that Jalen Milroe is quite equipped for it. Will Rogers will be really, really interesting. So, it's how much does he bring over from Washington? What does he do with that roster? Obviously, with the portal, man, who knows? He could bring whoever he wants with him. He's obviously got a bunch of top 2 classes in his roster in Tuscaloosa now. So, retaining them will be priority number 1. But that certainly is an interesting – and what does he do at OC, right? I mean, I think his OC at Washington potentially could be a candidate for that head coaching job. So, I mean, obviously there's a lot of stuff that has to settle in regards to the dust settling from this. But, I think it'd be really intriguing to get Will Rogers over there, or maybe he goes after somebody else.
Absolutely. And that Alabama spring game just got a whole lot more interesting.
Indeed it did, man. Indeed it did. Harrison, I appreciate the call, man. Great stuff as always.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, man. You the man. Great stuff, guys. Again, we're taking your questions, your comments, your calls. 843-790-3377. Again, guys, Kalen Deboer was a name on the short list. I think this is a really good hire. I mean, listen, there's a level of risk associated with every single one of these guys. Nobody was a no-brainer. Everybody, even if you felt a degree better about Lane Kiffin, you felt a degree better about Steve Sarkisian, you felt a degree better about Dan Lanning, whatever it might be. But there was a level of risk associated. When you talk about replacing Nick Saban, replacing the GOAT in college football, there's going to be a level of risk associated with it. And I mean, again, guys, you look at Kalen Deboer. He's played this underdog story kind of feel his entire career, and he has come out on top every single time. The dude has won everywhere he has been. Why would he not continue doing that? Why? And you can say to yourself, well, SEC ball is different. He just took down Texas in the college football playoff. Texas, a team that, guess what, guys, is in the SEC now. So don't tell me Kalen Deboer can't win the big game. He can't beat an SEC team. He just did. You look at the numbers, guys. There is plenty of support as to why this is a great hire for Alabama. Again, you look back at these numbers as I try to get them pulled up here. Kalen Deboer, two-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year, 12-2 against top 25 opponents, 3-0 against Dan Lanning, who most folks thought was the number one option, 2-0 against Steve Sarkisian, 2-0 against Lincoln Riley, and oh, by the way, just made an appearance in the national title. Anybody that signed on for this Alabama job, it was going to be a risk. It's going to be a bit of the roll of the dice. Like when you're talking about replacing literally the greatest of all time, there is no sure thing. But Kalen Deboer has won at every single stop. There's nothing that suggests he will not do the same here. He's got to surround himself with an elite staff. He's got to establish relationships in the Southeast. But, I mean, guys, he's going to have all the help he needs in doing so. Really, truly, Alabama is going to give him all of the support. Let's get into your comments, guys. I want to hear from you. This is a reaction show. Bo says, should bring in Jimbo as a recruiting coordinator. Hell, A&M is paying him and the dude can recruit. That could be interesting. Jacob says his career record is 104-12. Yeah, Kalen Deboer, he's unproven from the standpoint of like an SEC job, but I mean, he's a proven winner. He's a proven winner. I mean, there's nothing that suggests he won't continue to do that. God just made an appearance. Guys, he just made a national title appearance at a place where it's much harder to do that. All due respect to Washington. All due respect. But if you can win at Washington at that level and turn things around that quickly, why couldn't you do it at Alabama? Here's the thing that Bama fans, I think, have just got to come to grips with. Kalen Deboer is not going to be Nick Saban. He's just not. Guys, nobody's going to be Nick Saban. Nobody probably ever wins 6 national titles at their respective school ever again. Maybe Kirby Smart does it. Maybe. But more than likely, the next head coach at Alabama, no matter who they hired, is not going to do that. So Bama fans have got to get out of their head, Kalen Deboer is going to be the next Nick Saban. He's going to be Kalen Deboer. But if you are setting these expectations of he's got to do what Saban did, you have already lost. You have already failed. You have already set this man up for failure. Because he's not going to be that guy. Again, I look at his resume, guys. The only thing that I think you can really criticize him for is not being a Southern guy. And I know that, in the South, people are very hesitant to be accepting of quote-unquote outsiders. But, I mean, guys, if you can coach, you can coach. If you can coach, you can coach. By the way, Nick Saban was from West Virginia. Not a Southern guy. LSU gave him a shot. He won a national title. Alabama gave him a shot, and the rest is history. And the bottom line is, guys, you had to go get somebody. Lanning's, these other guys said no, potentially. We don't even know if they were offered, but you had to go get somebody. You had to go get somebody. You could have done much, much worse than Kalen Deboer. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. Chad says, I think it's a great hire. Roll Tide. I think it's a great hire, too. Man. Really, truly. Ben, talking to somebody else, say you don't know ball. Man's one of the best offensive minds in the game. He's won at every level. Having Southern ties does not mean shit. Saban and Meyer were both Midwest guys. Spur Your Enthusiasm says, SEC ball is a different beast, Chris. It is a different beast. Again, though, Kalen Deboer just beat Texas, who's in the SEC. Let's just go ahead and start saying that so we can get used to it. Hook'em's in the SEC. You talk about who Alabama should have targeted. How about the guy that's beaten some of the other guys that were top candidates for the job? How about that guy? Undefeated records against Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkisian. How about that guy? Why not? Seems like a pretty good hire to me. Get 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377. I see Brennan M. says, let's get it. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. Going back through your comments, Ben DeRosa says, only casuals think this is a bad hire. Joe, is West Virginia considered Midwest? I don't know, Joe, but it ain't considered Southeast. What would you – I don't consider West Virginia the South. I don't. Personally. I live in the great state of South Carolina. I don't consider West Virginia the South. You're really pushing it if you're trying to sell me West Virginia is the South. That's all I'm saying. Jacob says he'll at least keep Bama in the conversation, as a national championship contender. I think Kalen Deboer, guys, is primed to pick up where they left off. I really do. Again, I think it's there's no guy out there that was surefire. There's no guy that it's just a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, right? Every single candidate on Alabama's short list, there was some sort of risk involved. There was some level of risk. But just because there's risk doesn't mean you don't go out and do what's best for your program, do what's best for your football team. And Kalen Deboer ended up being that guy. There was risk with Dan Lanning. Hell, there was risk with Lane Kiffin, who I thought they should have thrown the bag at. Certainly risk with Dabo Swinney. Certainly risk with Steve Sarkisian. There's risk with all of these guys. Risk with Mike Norvell. But I'll take the guy that is 104-12 and multi-time Pac-12 champion or Pac-12 coach of the year, and appear in a national title game and, beat those other guys that I mentioned. It's not a bad resume. Not a bad risk to take. If you're going to take a risk on the guy that's the winner. Not saying those other guys weren't winners as well, but it goes beyond just getting a name. It goes beyond, there's other things that you're a fan of Alabama. You've got to trust that obviously Greg Burns and company have done their research. They've done everything they need to do to ensure it's the right hire for Alabama. Let's see. Spur Your Enthusiasm. To clarify, I don't think it's a bad hire, but as was said, the guy's not going to be Nick Saban, and the amount of is going to be heavily criticized if he can't make it to the college football playoff. Indeed. And Delta, I'm not telling Bama fans necessarily to temper their expectations. But what I am saying is Ben DeRosa comments, nobody's going to be Nick Saban. Bama officials understand that. The fans might not. Yeah, nobody's going to be Nick Saban. Nobody's going to be Nick Saban. If you're expecting Kalen Deboer to be Nick Saban, you're setting yourself up and you're setting Kalen Deboer up for failure. He's probably not going to win 6 national championships, guys. Believe it or not. Especially in this new era of college football with the portal and NIL and an expanded playoff. And that's okay. That's okay. But he's not going to be Nick Saban. If that was the goal of the Alabama coaching search, It was over before it started because that was impossible. It was impossible to find Nick Saban 2.0 because he doesn't exist. What you got in Kalen Deboer is a winner. You can't ask for anything more, guys. The only gripe there is he's not from the South. If you can coach, you can coach. If you can recruit, you can recruit. If you can work in the portal, you can work in the portal. I just don't think that makes all that much of a difference. So, Kalen Deboer was a winner. He's won at every stop he's been. I mean, he's won from the lowest level, we're talking NAIA, all the way up to appearing in a national championship. What more could you ask for if you're Alabama? Jacob says he was able to go undefeated at Washington. Imagine what he can do at Bama with more talent. No doubt. Guys, we are reacting to this live breaking news from ESPN. Washington's Kalen Deboer agrees to a deal to become the next head coach at Alabama. Guys, 843-790-3377, that phone number right there on the screen. You can call that. I want to hear from you. My guy John Rice, texter, says, I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide. Indeed. Indeed, indeed. Guys, you want to call in, react to this. Kalen Deboer is the 28th head coach at the University of Alabama. Do you love it? Do you hate it? How would you grade it? Is there going to be pushback, do you think? Is there going to be pushback? I think Kalen Deboer, guys, if I had to predict, I think he's going to succeed. Like, I really do. I think Kalen Deboer is going to succeed. I really, genuinely believe that. But what does success look like in this new era of college football? What does it look like? What does success look like? Is it winning a national title? What does that look like? I mean, it's just because in this new era, I mean, it's never been tougher to do what Nick Saban did. So let's see. Jay Diz, that Urban Meyer won't ever work out at Florida. He's not from the South. Yeah. Yep. Spur your enthusiasm. His first real test. Going to be trying to retain the roster he currently has. I agree with you 100%. That is the number one priority for Kalen Deboer. Retain the roster. You got one of the best rosters in college football, Alabama. We know how they recruited. You got to keep that thing together. I'm curious now, too, like building out the staff. Going to be very important. Kalen Deboer surrounds himself with the elites of the elites. You know how you make up for not being from the South? You surround yourself with assistants that have SEC ties. They've been around a time or two. Who does he go out there and get? Does he bring his OC from Washington with him? Does that guy take the Washington job? A lot to be answered right now. A lot to be answered. Coach Ford says he's shown to be able to win at every single level. No doubt. Andrew the Textbook says, good hire by Alabama. Joe, I think recruiting is the only if Washington had better recruiting rankings before he got there. Dude, here's the thing. I don't worry all that much about recruiting at Alabama. I really don't. And maybe that's ignorant of me to say, but man, unless Kalen Deboer is just completely incompetent, and Alabama recruits itself. You're going to recruit well at Alabama. It's Alabama. That's it. Here's the thing, too, guys. Are we not considering this? Don't we believe Nick Saban had a hand in this? I don't think Nick Saban would have signed off on this if he didn't think Kalen Deboer was a great choice to come in and pick up where he left off. Have we not considered that? So, again, a guy who's a proven winner, man, 104-12. He's beaten the likes of Dan Lanning. He's beaten the likes of Steve Sarkisian. The only thing is he's not from the South. I mean, I just that is when we're talking about, and I know it's a nitpicky thing with the Alabama head coaching job, but that's really nitpicking, man. That's really nitpicking. Really, truly. Let's see. Ben DeRosa, Kalen Deboer in 2020 is a much different resume than Deboer now. That's pre-Fresno in Washington. Obviously, he would have been a great hire, but it's hard to look back now and get mad at USC, talking about South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, resumes evolve. Resumes change, man. You get opportunities to prove yourself, and you make the most of them, and you end up in a position like this. I mean, obviously, Kalen Deboer, what he did at Washington's a huge part of the reason, probably the reason why he got the job at Alabama. Kyle Lee, Kirby Smart would have been better. Kirby Smart wasn't going anywhere, though, Kyle Lee. I think we all agree with that. Jay says, definitely not first choice. My guess is he was 5th or maybe 6th. We don't know that, though, Jay. I can't assume that without knowing. I can't assume that. I just can't assume that for the sake of it. I can't assume that for the sake of it. Guys, 843-790-3377. If you want to call in, give us your thoughts. How would you grade this Kalen Deboer hire? What are your feelings? Good hire, bad hire, somewhere in the middle? Jay Smith, what's going on, man? Appreciate you tuning in. David Barnes says it's all fun and games until the Shane train kicks their ass in Tuscaloosa next year. Good luck. Good luck, David. Good luck. Again, guys, like we mentioned, this hire, I mean, I think anybody would have been a roll of the dice to a degree. There wasn't one surefire guy out there where it's like, man, that's just the most obvious. That's a no-brainer choice. There was a level of risk associated with every single candidate. Admittedly, Kalen Deboer wasn't the first name on my list. I literally said yesterday I'd go all in on Lane Kiffin, right? That was my personal preference. That would have been my choice. Did Bama approach him? Did they call? I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. But we're splitting hairs here. We really are. We're splitting hairs. Sean Nichols says, roll tide, roll. I stand behind Greg Byrne and Alabama. Welcome home, Coach Deboer. Sean, appreciate you tuning in, my friend. Spur Your Enthusiasm says, asking about, am I not? So Spur Your Enthusiasm, I'm a South Carolina guy, but I just say good luck to South Carolina beating Alabama because this head coaching change, South Carolina needs to worry about beating Kentucky on the road in week 2 or 3 or whatever it is first. How about that? South Carolina is light years away from beating Alabama in football. I hate to tell you, in Tuscaloosa, that's why I said good luck. Most folks that watch college football would probably agree with that. I'm a South Carolina guy, but good luck to Shane Beamer and the Gamecocks in that one. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Kyle Lee maybe should have gone for the Georgia DC. Sean Nichols says, I would have loved to have had Kiffin. Yeah, I mean, that would have been my guy. I would have thrown the bag at Lane Kiffin, man. Jay says, who does Washington hire now? It was rumors that Seattle was going to at least talk to him. So if the NFL comes calling, does he leave Bama? Talk to Kalen Deboer, you mean? I don't think you take the Bama job if you're about to leave. I just put it that way. Let's see. Ben DeRosa, Jed Fish to Washington. How about that? Guys, we'll stay live for another 5 or 10 minutes or so. Content bleeding out of the eyeballs. Obviously, we've got the podcast to get up. We've got YouTube stuff to get up. And, heck, I've got dinner plans tonight. So I unfortunately cannot stay live all night long. But we're going to try to squeeze in a couple comments, a couple calls. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Blake Queen.
Blake, what's going on, man? You're on the air.
What's up, brother?
What's going on?
Hey, I just figured I'd call and give a couple takes. I think you've hit on most of the key points, right, man? Like Deboer, he's a winner. He's done everything right everywhere he's been. Cool, he's not from the South, but I promise you, Nick Saban, the Alabama front office, and him as well, is going to surround himself with guys from the South. I don't think he's going to pull a Dion, walk in, kick the doors open, tell everybody to get the fuck out, right? He's gonna do his thing, but there's a core in Alabama that's gonna stay. I think he's good, and I think this team is gonna. It's hard to say stay where they're at because there's Nick Saban there. Like I think you had them ranked at A- this year. You bump them down. You can't bump Alabama down to a B+, right? And it's hard to say they're gonna stay where they're at. But it's hard to say that they're going to do worse. As long as this roster don't jump ship, and everything you hear about Deboer is he's a great guy. He keeps his phone on all night. He's texting players back within 10 minutes. You hear great things about the dude. I think it's a great hire. Before I hop off of here, Chris, I expect something out of you. I want you to go back and redo your coaching rankings in the SEC because I want to see where you got Deboer. I want to see where you got Deboer. Go ahead and do that for me.
Yeah.
Take your time on that.
No, I appreciate it, Blake. Thanks so much for the call, man. You're the man.
Yeah, have a good one, brother.
Thanks, man. You too. Yeah, to Blake's point, we we dropped those way too early head coach rankings in the SEC literally 2 days ago. It was the day of Nick Saban's retirement. So I hate to repeat content in that way, but we might need to do that again. Heck, we did way too early record predictions as well. I'm not going back through that. That just too much. I mean, I had Bama at 11-1. Do they go 11-1? I don't know. It's hard to think Bama is going to go any less than 10-2, to be honest with you. They still have one of the best rosters, but there's a lot of stuff that's got to come together for sure. But we will do those way too early head coach rankings again. Where does Deboer rank? I mean, I think, I think Kirby Smart obviously takes over as the top coach in college football. I mean, guys, would you rank Kalen Deboer ahead of Steve Sarkisian? I mean, he's beat him. He's flat out beat him head to head. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't, so we'll probably do that again next week. That'll be fun just to kind of go back through that, if you will, and re-rank the way too early. There's a reason it's called way too early, right? Because you never know. Somebody could leave where they're at, and we could have coaching changes, and then none of it makes any sense. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Sean Nichols says, number 1, Kirby, number 2, Sark, number 3, Kiffin. Okay, so DeBoer's not even top 3 for you. Not even top 3. All right. Daniel says, dude's going to be a bust. What has he had? 1, maybe 2 good seasons as a head coach? So Daniel thinks he's going to be a bust. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to get through all your comments, your questions. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Truly, man, this is awesome. Kalen Deboer, officially your head coach at Alabama. The head coaching search literally lasted a day and a half. A day and a half. Mark says his overall record's 104-12. So he's had more than 1 or 2 good seasons. Yeah, I mean, again, he's a winner, Mark. And you know what I love about this hire too? Again, I mentioned this kind of briefly top of the broadcast here. I love what I love about this hire is it's like the, and I don't know that this will make Bama fans feel any better about the hire or anybody else who's doubting it, but like, I kind of like seeing the underdog and the guy who's doubted get his shot. I kind of like that, you know, because I think even Kalen Deboer was the underdog to land this job. And there's just something to be said about the underdog getting a shot. You know what I mean? Like, don't you think a guy like Kalen Deboer is going to bring just such an edge to the way that he attacks this job and attacks the challenge that is being the Alabama head football coach? You know, you think about it, he's been, for the most part, doubted wherever he's been. You go to a place like Washington. I mean, that team embodied that this year. They were doubted at every turn. So it almost kind of feels like he brings that now as a head coach. And so that's always, that's something intriguing, right? How does he handle the pressures of everything? What it means to be the Alabama head football coach. But I think it's a home run, guys. I mean, as much as a home run as it could be, right? I keep using that term. I think it's a really, really good hire. I think it's a really good hire. I mean, again, there's a level of risk associated with every single one of the candidates. We are splitting hairs when talking about this guy's better than that guy, this guy's better than that guy. I think Kalen Deboer is as good as you could have done, man. I mean, I think Kalen Deboer, proven winner. He's developed football players, uses the portal, uses NIL. He's got things to prove in recruiting. I've seen some folks saying, what about his recruiting? Guys, much easier to recruit at Bama than it is Washington. And I mean, no successful coach, they all realize how important recruiting, portal, talent acquisition is, and talent retention. So I don't worry about that with Deboer. I don't necessarily worry about that, to be totally honest with you. So, Kalen Deboer, the 28th head coach in the history, the proud history of Alabama football. How about that, guys? How about that? It's some major shoes to fill. Bo, I know the football behind me is flat. If it wasn't flat, it wouldn't stand up like that. Also, it was given to me flat. I think the thing, like the pump thing, was taken out of it. So, anyways, it's meant to be flat, all right? It's meant to be flat. Thomas Wheeler says, is there an argument to be made that Deboer got lucky with Penix and Odunze already being in place and isn't ready to sustain a major SEC program? Thomas, only time will tell. Maybe. Mark Livingston, let's face it, you're not going to find the next Saban. This guy worked his way up from NAIA to taking over the most storied program in college football. This is a hell of a story. Yeah, and listen, I think he's a winner. There's no reason why. There's no reason to believe he won't just keep winning. Bo says, looks like SEC deflated. Again, Bo, it just works out for the display, my man. Come on, you're killing me right now. You're killing me. This ball can't be pumped up. This ball was given to me flat without the pin in it, so you can't pump it up. But I thought it looked cool as a display. Maybe I can get one that's inflated. I've got a Vanderbilt football that's fully pumped up, but it doesn't have, I love that this one's got the college football playoff logo on it, right? Got the logo on it. Frank says he moved from late night TV to prime time. Good luck. Yeah, good luck indeed, man. It's big shoes to fill. It's big shoes to fill. And, I think Bama could have done much worse. We'll put it that way. I think Bama could have done much worse. So, I mean, I think it's maybe even a more boring hire than some of the others. But I think it's a quality hire nonetheless. Guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a day. I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much for jumping on. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content as well. And, of course, guys, podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast. Continue to follow us on social media. Continue to follow us, guys. Content bleeding out of the eyeballs. That is putting it lightly, to say the least. Guys, Appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Y'all have a great weekend, and we will talk to you all on Monday.